Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's presentation on POE. I think this is a vital component that everybody needs to be cognizant of and take note of tonight. It's very important that you present your portfolio of evidence precisely and concisely, and tonight is going to guide you through that. We've come a long way in this last month and a half with the course and now with the exam, and I'm proud of so many people playing a role and playing part of doing the exam, and I look forward to many more people doing it as well. Prosney has put together a wonderful presentation which will take us through step by step. So I ask each and every one of you please to pay close attention. I'm pretty sure this presentation will be made available to everyone post tonight's webinar. But yeah, I'm just proud to be part of a group of people that are passionate about event safety. Thank you. So I think without any further ado, let's hand over to Prosney while Kevin shares the link with everybody else. Prosney, over to you.
Thank you so much. Before I share my screen, thank you very much for the opportunity. And it's quite daunting to sit here and try and tell other people what to do and how to do it, even though we do that on a day-to-day basis. But I think it's so important to go into this whole process of achieving the event safety practitioner certification with open eyes and know what is to be expected. So just a little bit of background on myself. I am based in Nelson Mandela Bay, Port Elizabeth, Gqeberha. Three options of what you want to call it. I operate as an event safety officer, as an event safety practitioner, and I've been doing so since 2013. I have been an event manager, event organizer since I guess about 2002, 2003, more or less. And then it was just a natural progression for me in terms of when the Act was promulgated and I saw the opportunity of becoming, to get myself more qualified and get more recognition. And I also said to Kevin tonight, I said, it has made such a huge impact on my business, being a small business, being a solo operator. Once I achieved the practitioner status in terms of more business coming into my business, more recognition, easier to convince national companies working or bringing work into PE and to use my services, because now I have a proper qualification related to events. Because I think it's also very important to realize that an event safety officer is not a construction safety officer or occupational health and safety officer. They can be those as well, but vice versa does not work. So it's very specific skills that you need in terms of the event. And I'm sure you've seen that for those of you that have gone through the course with us. So without further ado, I think let me start with sharing my screen so that I can show you what we're going to be talking about tonight. Right, one more. So we are going to talk about the go-to guide on how to submit your portfolio of evidence and then the assessment process. So what you need to get together to submit and then to do the in-person online assessment one-on-one. So we are just going to take it back a step and say the Certified Event Safety Practitioner designation signifies an individual's informed knowledge and commitment to safe working practices in the events industry and asserts their commitment to continuing professional development in this field. A certified event safety practitioner has demonstrated their informed understanding of standards, regulations, and laws relating to event safety, as well as an informed understanding of the role and responsibility of agencies involved in the inspection and approval of event power and temporary demountable structures. So obviously we need to look at some qualifying criteria that put you in line to be able to attempt to get your certification. So you should hold either a national senior certificate or a national certificate vocational, an FET certificate, event support, or any other relevant NQF level 4 qualification. I think that is very important to stipulate, that you need to have some sort of a NQF level 4 qualification. And then it doesn't just help to have the book knowledge. It is so important to have the real working experience in the events industry. So we're asking that you should have at least a minimum of 2 years of relevant work experience in the events industry. And then for some people that don't have a permanent job or do freelance work, that you could demonstrate at least 105 working days, a minimum in each year. So for us, it's the practical knowledge of actual working experience as an event safety officer at events. And that you don't just do the work in the office, because you might understand the workings, and you might know how to do the paperwork. But there's a huge difference once you find yourself on the front line, fighting the fights and dealing with whatever it is that events bring us once you are actually on the ground. So those are the things to look at in terms of the qualifying criteria. And then we also recognize prior learning, of course. So we know that many applicants for this designation will not hold an underlying NQF qualification, but the Council will encourage individuals lacking such a qualification to apply for a professional designation if they can demonstrate additional work experience. So we're not going to penalize you as such if you don't have that NQF level 4, but if you actually have the work experience in event safety. So the process, obviously, for you to go through is, first of all, to write the online multiple choice exam. And I'm not going to beat around the bush. It is very hard. Make no mistake, it's very hard, because obviously we can't just give out designations for the sake of. We need to show that you know what you're talking about, that you're familiar with SANS 10366, that you're familiar with SASTRIA 2010, and of course, underpinning SASTRIA are the regulations to SASTRIA 2010. And inside those documents are the day-to-day information that you need to make sure that you know what's going on at an event. So those things need to support their claim of competence, and that is why we ask you for a portfolio of evidence, because it's impossible for us to go and visit each person where they're working on site somewhere at an event to make sure that we know what they are talking about. So how to prepare for the portfolio of evidence? A portfolio, I'm going to use a simple example. If you're going to apply for a visa because you want to travel overseas and you don't have a foreign passport, you need to go and apply for a visa, whether it's a Schengen visa, whether it's a UK visa or something like that. There are very specific bullet points in terms of things that you need to submit, have in place, whether it is your statement of your bank or whether it is your address or anything like that they ask you. If there's one of those documents missing, they will say, come back and do it again. So this is where we stand in terms of your portfolio of evidence. We need you to have specific things in place to show us that you are competent. So although we don't have a definitive list of documents, but we have a general list, so you'll get the understanding, because not one person has the same portfolio as the next one. And here I'm going to start with the most important item that we request, and that is an event risk assessment. That is a document that you should all be familiar with. It's a document that is specific to a specific event, whether it's a low risk or medium risk event. A risk assessment is done not the same as an occupational health and safety one. It is very specific to events. And then, of course, an event safety plan for a low risk event, as described in Chapter 2 of the Safety at Sports and Recreational Events Act, which for us is SASRIA. So the event safety plan is similar to what you would submit to a JOC application. It would include all the plans and all the certificates. And then the next most important thing is your detailed CV, including all your qualifications and your certifications that you have already achieved, but it must include a list of events that you have worked on. To say just whatever the name of the event is, the Spa Ladies Race, and the date and the city and the years, however many years you have done a specific event or different events. Put in as much information as possible because that will make us understand how much experience you actually have working as an event safety officer, not just doing fencing or cleaning or something like that, specifically related to event safety. We also request testimonials and letters of recommendation supporting your claim of knowledge, your experience, and your competence. We ask you to list your awards or commendations that you've received. And then, of course, copies of course certificates from any event safety courses that you have attended. We do not provide a template for the reference letter because otherwise they're all going to look the same. We need the letter from the event organizer or the client or somebody like that giving us an unpacking who you are, what have you done. It gives us a real understanding that this is somebody that they've worked with, they understand how you work, what is your character like, and of course, your accomplishments. We suggest the letter covers the values and principles associated with SACIA membership, but it's not just about that. It's about who are you and what do you do when once you work on an event before, during, after. We're looking for authentic inputs. And like I said, we don't want letters that look the same and copy and paste and just a different signature. So the portfolio of evidence should also demonstrate your understanding of the standards, the regulations, and the legislation. And this is when it comes evident when you present us with that event safety plan. So I have a few notes and comments for you. So the risk assessment must be event specific. Like I just said, I don't want to see, and neither do my colleagues on the board, a risk assessment that is about a workplace or something. Yes, the event is a workplace, but the risk assessment relating to events is very, very specific. And it's also must not be older than 1 year. And like I indicated, the event safety plan is like you would present to the JOC with all the supporting documents, the plans, the permissions, and the certifications. You need to be able to unpack that plan that you would do for the JOC to say, where did you get the certificate? How did you apply? And your name needs to be linked to that submission. I also want to see a detailed CV, like we already said. And please do a proper, when you scan your documents in, please make sure that they right side up and clearly legible. Your letters of recommendation and your testimonials from clients or event organizers must be specific to the events where you have worked. Not just saying, I know of this person who used to work or who does work. It must be somebody who you actually work for. Please name all your documents with your name and surname, like Joe Black CV, Joe Black reference letter number 1, 2, or 3, Joe Black safety plan, whatever it is. And it's also easier if you focus your submission and you say your event safety plan is for the Spa Ladies Race, and these are the supporting documents for that specific event. Don't grab different documents relating to other events. Focus on one event and unpack that one event with all its bits and pieces. Ensure that you show proof of actual events where you were appointed as the safety officer. Provide the appointment letter, at least 2 of them, and they mustn't be older than 6 months because it will again tell us that you have been working in the field. you are hands-on, you know what it's all about. I already said about scanning the documents right side up. I don't want to still fiddle and try and figure out what's what and trying to read things and find how to rotate by 180 degrees and things like that. Ensure that your name, I already said that, appears on all the relevant documents. Show proof that you did the RA, the risk assessment. Show proof that you did the JOC applications, that you did the putting together of the plans, or whatever it is that you feel is going to show us that you know how to do it. Because to carry this certification means that you are able to do the paperwork, all the stuff before the event starts, sorting out all the permission certifications, and all of those documents that you are able to submit to JOC, that you are able to get the permission to host the event, that you are able to work at the event and do whatever is required to make sure it's a safe and successful event. And then actually also be able to do a debriefing afterwards and do the SWOT analysis, that you are able to participate in this whole process of the madness that we're all involved in, being event safety. So that is why I also recommend that you come with a PowerPoint presentation to your assessment. So there are designation competencies. An individual applying for recognition as a certified event safety practitioner should be able to demonstrate, and here I'm just reiterating those things that I've already said, an informed knowledge of event safety practitioners across multiple event formats. Some can be indoor, outdoor, conferences, sporting events, and then you need to understand key terms, the rules, the concepts, establishing principles and theories. The candidate should demonstrate an informed understanding of those standards. And that's where we come back. Yes, the Occupational Health and Safety Act is relevant, but it's not just limited to. Of course, SANS 10366, SASRIA, Basic Employment Act, Employment Equity Act, and I'm sure you've seen out of that online test that you've done or exam, all these things come up in some form or another question. So it means that you need to understand and think out of the box. A fundamental understanding of dispute resolution. You know, I am the first to admit that I don't deal well with conflict. But you have to get over it. You have to put big old panties on and you have to deal with it. Dispute resolution techniques are so important because not only in your own space, but you deal with the public. And the public, let's not go there, but that's why you need to have these skills and practice these skills. You have to implement guidelines, processes, procedures, and then, of course, you have to keep your client happy at all times, as well as the sponsors. So you have to have the ability to adhere to the SACIA Code of Professional Conduct. And I'm going to come back to that because it is a badge that you're carrying. It's something that you need to be proud of and you need to look after that. So it's important to adhere to that professional code of conduct. There needs to be the ability to communicate and present event and safety information reliably and accurately, both in a written and in a oral format. Also, understanding of the organizational structures used in the events industry, including who does what are the roles and the responsibility of various people working with you, what do the safety or what do the security company, what are their roles, what is the role of the medic, what is the role of the fire safety people and the noise people, environmental health. So everybody works together, and there's a huge requirement to make sure that you are able to work as a team within this one structure. And then lastly, an informed ability to conduct a risk analysis on events across multiple formats. I think I've stressed that enough in terms of the risk assessment. So this is what you're chasing. You're chasing this document, Certified Event Safety Practitioner. This is my third one, I'm very proud to say. And I think, you know, it's also very important that you are going through the process now of doing the online exam and doing the assessment and then achieving the certification. But it's not a once off. Every year you have to renew the certificate, you have to renew your membership. It's the same as like you going to the doctor, to the GP, or to a specialist. They have to renew their license every year. If not, then they're not like really legit to go to. The same for you. Make sure that once you've joined and you've paid your membership fees, that you renew your membership fees. Otherwise, this certificate means nothing and it won't get renewed. So, on that very same note, I also want to say we are in a very special industry where we draw the same lines as whether it's a medical doctor or a lawyer in terms of insurance. So, it is my recommendation that you all go look into having professional indemnity insurance in place. When you work as an event safety officer or a certified event safety practitioner, have professional indemnity insurance because you are giving advice and you need to protect yourself in terms of that advice that you're giving. And that is the insurance that you need to take out. It also makes people see that you are legit and that you are responsible and that you have your ducks in a row. So make sure that you look into that, please. So now we've gone through the process. I've unpacked what I want to see in your CV and your assessment that you send in before the time. But now what happens at the actual interview? Well, I'm not going to lie, it is daunting. Believe me, I remember when I still did mine, I walked away and I looked in the mirror and I said, how on earth did the people look at this red face? Because I was having a massive flush because I was so stressed out and I was so nervous and I didn't know what to expect. And you sort of like do this thing and it's not in person, it's online, which makes it even harder. So prepare, practice, see what you have in place, go over it again and again so that you are ready for when you do this interview and your assessment. And that's why I'm saying it's very much recommended that you make use of a PowerPoint presentation because then you have the evidence in front of you and it's easy. You're not just waffling on, you have a set thing planned out for yourself with all the supporting documents. Treat this like you would a job presentation and show how you obtained the plans, the certificates, and the permissions for a low risk event. Be prepared for questions relating to your RA, your risk assessment. Be prepared to unpack what you will be checking for on the day before the event and on the event day. What are you going to do? Are you just going to walk around there in your bib? Or what are you going to do? Tell us, what are you going to do? Do you have a system? Where do you start? What do you look for? Why do you look for certain things? Be prepared to answer questions relating to any of the items in your presentation pack, as well as your portfolio of evidence. And then the biggest outcome is that you should know how relating to actual practice issues relating to event safety on the ground in practice and how you would deal with different scenarios and issues you will face that you need to show mitigating plans and solutions for. So yes, there will be a trick question or two. It's necessary because we all deal with unexpected situations and scenarios at an event. And we need to make sure that you understand. Because at the end of the day, Sakya is giving you a certificate to say, we know that you know what you should know, not what they don't know. So you have to carry that badge knowing that we are confident in your knowledge and skills. And then lastly, remember the following. As an event safety officer is not the same, like I said, a construction safety officer or an occupational health and safety officer. You are a different animal. Understand that. There's no doubt in my mind. Many of the elements used by the above are relevant, but there are so much more that is unique to events. And please ask questions if you're not sure of something. I also encourage you to do extra short courses to upskill yourself. And I've just listed some of the basics that you could do online or in person, like effective accident events investigation, emergency action and fire prevention plans, how to deal with those and how to draw them up. Basic food safety for hospitality operators, at least then you'll understand what you're dealing with vendors. HERA, that's a hazard identification and a risk assessment, hygiene and PPE, introduction to safety management, first aid, basic firefighting, and ladder safety. And please, whoever you do those short courses with, ensure that the organization is registered, that there's some sort of an NQF or that they are recognized by NOSA or SAQA or somebody like that. So please make sure before you spend money on doing short courses. I think that concludes my presentation for now. I just want to get back here and stop sharing. And there we go. And back to you, Kevin.
Prosney, thank you. Thank you very much. I think that you've absolutely summed it up very, very well. And I think that the key is that we're not just looking at your documents. What we're going to do is interrogate your documents and then have a conversation with you about them. The one thing that you so two things I just want to pick up on, and I'm pretty sure that Sharif will join us for a quick chat as well. So that the first is just to clarify, because at the beginning of the presentation you spoke about the event safety designation, and you described it as a qualification, and perhaps just to stress that this is not a qualification. Qualifications are rewarded by universities and colleges, and they require you to go off and study. Of course, many of you did study, and then write an exam. And then if you pass the exam, you earn a certificate, a degree, diploma, whatever else it is. But generally speaking, a qualification does not require relevant work experience. Not always true, but it is true as far as professional designations are concerned, that we conduct our assessment based on what SAQA call the 4 E's of excellence. So we look at your education, we test your knowledge, but we also look at your work experience. The other difference between a qualification and a designation is that it does need to be maintained. So Prosney made that point on several occasions. But the issue with a professional designation is that you need to maintain membership in SAQA, you need to participate in a program of continuing professional development, and you need to abide by the code of professional conduct. And if you don't do those 3 things, then it's very likely that you will forfeit the designation. So important to maintain your membership and renew your certification on an annual basis, but equally important to participate in continuing professional development programs. I know that there are a couple of people online this evening that have recently written the test, and I want to invite them to share their experience and perhaps give some advice to those others that have not yet done so. And I also want to create an opportunity where people that have questions can ask them. And rather than, for tonight anyway, rather than posting in the WhatsApp group, just put up your hand and I'll activate your microphone so that we can have a conversation. And whilst we're waiting for those hands to come up, Sharif, have you got anything that you wanted to add that we haven't covered so far?
Yeah, well, I think Prosney succinctly covered everything nicely. I think the one thing that Prosney did speak about was be prepared. Yes, you are going to be presenting to a panel of your peers, so that's already intimidating. But you've got to think of it this way. When you're presenting to a JOC, you're presenting to generals, to majors, for high-ranking people in both the municipality and in the police. And if you do not do it right, it's your reputation, but as well as your credence as claiming to be an event safety officer. And I think the key word is here, event. And if you are in the events industry, you're supposed to be an extrovert, not an introvert. So I think Prosney said it right. Practice, practice, practice. Sit in front of the mirror, rehearse your presentation as if you are going to a job. Because I know I've done it. I'm sure Prosney has done it. We've gone through our documents and we've practiced and rehearsed before we've gone to present at a job. Do the same thing for your portfolio of evidence assessment, guys. It'll pay dividends for you in the long run. But more than that, it trains you for your future endeavors as an event safety officer with your presentations, not just a job, but when you are standing in front of a VOC commander at a site and something, God forbid, has gone wrong, or they're planning to do something. All of this, all of these lessons in life will pay dividends for you as you move forward. And like Kevin said, yes, it may not be a qualification, it is a designation. You need to keep it updated and upgraded constantly. But know this designation takes you everywhere and anywhere in the world. You will be respected in your craft. And that's what we all strive for at the end of the day, to be qualified in our craft and be proud of our craft and to be proud of being able to save lives, because that's exactly, as Kevin opened up and said, that's exactly what we do for a living. And I think based on what Prosney has presented, and I'm pretty sure Kevin is going to be putting this out for people to look at and read through so you can understand it before you apply for you to do your POE. Guys, this is the opportunity now to ask your questions. There are no stupid questions. Please ask any question that you want. We are here to help, guide, and answer, and whatever else that we can do to help you through these times so that you can become a designated event safety practitioner. And you know, Prosney's 3 years in. I'm a few years more than that. I'm planning, and I'm already stressing because I want to do my POE to become an event safety professional in the next month or so. And I'm already stressing because I have to sit in front of the likes of Mike and Phil, and I can only imagine the hell I'm going to go through for that. So guys, it's not just you, it's me, it's all of us. Prosney will be doing her professional designation in any time now as well. So guys, let's open up your hearts and your minds, ask the questions.